Hey, I'm Steve Moss.
And I'm Uriah and Steve.
And this is the Triple Threat Podcast.
Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got a real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. Alright.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Triple Threat Podcast. I am your host, Steve Moss. As always, here with a guy who can't really figure out a hairstyle, Uriah Tagle.
It was a down day, Steve. I'm at home. I was home all day. It's limp. It's fine.
I think it looks nice.
I change it a lot, though. I change my hair a lot. I'm self-conscious about it. Thanks for bringing it up. So
that's fine. You know what today is, Uriah?
The greatest day in Triple Threat Podcast history.
We have been dreaming of this day since we started doing this podcast, and
honestly,
yeah, it's going to be great. This is the start of the NBA preview. We're going to go through, we're going to sit here for 3 hours, probably more, and give you 3 podcasts of just NBA action. You're going to fucking love it. We're going to fucking love it. We're going to start with the Eastern Conference. If you don't like the Eastern Conference, just listen to the next one, because
it's the Western Conference,
which is also a conference in the NBA. What we're going to do is we're going to go bottom to top of the teams. We have differing opinions on this, so watch out for that. We're going to start with the worst team in the Eastern Conference, probably the worst team in the league as well, the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yes. Well, they're tanking, first of all.
Oh yeah, they're tanking by design. Don't think that this team is just bad. They're bad on purpose.
Absolutely, as most of the worst teams in the league are this year, and as we're going to see a lot of teams start doing, probably around the All-Star break, we're going to see some trades that wouldn't have happened if these teams were in playoff contention.
Absolutely. And with the Philadelphia 76ers, they got a new coach in Brett Brown, and they drafted Nerlens Noel, but Brett Brown has said that Nerlens Noel is probably going to be out for the year, so that's just because they were tanking and they don't care. But he had a torn ACL, so whatever. They also drafted Michael Carter-Williams. How do you feel about Michael Carter-Williams?
I feel like he's a piece of garbage, and I keep getting people telling me that nobody can stop this guy when he goes to the hoop. He's so good driving to the hoop. That's fine, what you saw in college at Syracuse. I don't care. This isn't the fucking Big East anymore. He's going up against some big boys. He's not going to be able to get to the rim easily. And the fact of the matter is, we saw it with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist last year. If you can't shoot at all, you can't be successful in the NBA. And he can't shoot at all.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if you watched him in the preseason, but he has been absolutely terrible in the preseason. He's not...
I think we watched him together one time, and it was just...
That was Summer League.
Yeah, okay, you're right. I didn't watch him in the preseason.
That's fine.
I didn't watch much preseason at all.
This team was terrible in the preseason. They got scored on like nobody's business. And MCW, I keep calling him that because his name is too long to say.
That's fine.
I don't think he's a starting point guard in the league, especially not yet because he's a rookie. I don't know what to make of him yet. He can't shoot. He has decent passing abilities, but he's turnover prone, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to handle anybody in this league.
No, obviously, I mean, I didn't watch him that much at Syracuse. That's the other thing. He played that terrible zone in college. When was the last time we saw a guy come out of Syracuse and know how to play defense? I can't think of one.
I honestly can't think of one either, and that's pretty sad. I mean,
so that's not good. Yeah. He's going up against great point guards in the Eastern Conference. He's got, Derrick Rose, Mario Chalmers. Aren't you glad he's the second one I named?
Yeah.
But, Darren Williams, Rondo, Kyrie Irving.
The list goes on.
Yeah.
It really does. They're starting James Anderson at the 2. I don't actually know who James Anderson is, which is sad because I basically know every player in the NBA. Do you know who James Anderson is?
I do not. In fact, before we started recording, you said, why? I'm looking at what I have for the Sixers depth chart here. Can you tell me why I have James Anderson starting at the 2? Yeah, I don't know. I pulled up his page here. He's 24 out of Oklahoma State. Career averages. Apparently he's been around the league a little bit. He was in Houston last year, and he was in San Antonio the 2 years before that.
Yeah, I didn't hear his name once. And the only reason he's starting is because Jason Richardson has a torn ACL and probably not going to play a game this year.
I love that this is going to be Jason Richardson's team when he comes back, though. That he's the best player on this team.
By far.
When we're thinking about the guards with the Sixers, we got to bring up that trade from the draft, where they obviously they sent Drew Holiday to New Orleans for Noel, the pick that turned into...
They traded for Nerlens Noel and then got Michael Carter-Williams a few picks later. But they also got a first-round pick of New Orleans next year.
Do you like that trade for the Sixers?
I like that trade for the Sixers if you're tanking completely. I mean, Drew Holiday would have been the best player on the team, but
by far. He was an all-star last year.
He was an all-star last year, and I mean, next year's draft is stacked. You want to have as many picks as possible, as you can tell by Phoenix Suns. Yeah, I like this. I like that for the Sixers because Nerlens Noel is going to turn into a really good center. Maybe not a superb center, but a good enough center. And just not having him play this year, and then maybe you get Andrew Wiggins. If you get Andrew Wiggins, your team is instantly turned around.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a number of guys like that in this draft from what I've heard. The top 5 picks could all be guys. It's going to be like the draft with LeBron and Melo and Wade. It's going to be the best draft since, what was that, 2003?
Yeah.
That sound right? Okay. So, obviously it's going to be a loaded draft. The only thing is Drew Holiday, he's so young. What is he, like 23 or 24?
Yeah, he's 23 years old.
He was an all-star last year. They had just locked him up for that huge extension, like 4 years maybe. There's no reason they can't still be a bad lottery team with Drew Holiday and then try to score one of those guys. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad trade for them, though. As you said, Noel, he'll probably... His floor is probably a good defensive center on a playoff team. And then that pick from New Orleans, the West is tough. They probably won't make the playoffs. So I think that's only protected. Do you know?
No.
I don't know. They could very easily get a decent pick from that New Orleans pick. So, hey, stockpile.
Oh, yeah, you got to stockpile for this draft, because this draft is the best draft we've seen since 2003, like you said, and drafts down the line are probably not going to be as good as this one. You got to get picks in this draft. And we can't talk about the Sixers without talking about Evan Turner. He was the second pick in the draft behind John Wall. He is going to be the best player on this team. Maybe Thad Young's a little better. Thad Young is the oldest player that matters on this team, and he's 25 years old. This team is so young. And I don't know, Evan Turner, he's going to get a lot of shots. He's going to chuck them up. That's why I have him on my fantasy team, because he's going to get a lot of points just because he takes so many shots.
Yeah, he's the man on this team.
Yeah, he's the go-to guy.
You look at the starting 5, it's him and Spencer Hawes are going to be getting the majority. They're going to run half the offense through Spencer Hawes, which they did last year. I watched far too many Sixers games because my roommate last year was a Sixers fan. Thought they were going to contend for the playoffs, but...
That's because they had Bynum.
They did.
Had,
yeah.
in quotation
that was
marks.
Awesome. I'm so happy that whole thing happened. This team also has an injured Kwame.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Kwame. Kwame's the oldest at 31.
Honestly, though, how many NBA players does this roster have?
Brett Brown, the coach, has said that this team has 6 NBA players, and the rest were competing for a starting spot. Or just a spot on the team, actually.
That's unbelievable.
They just released Royce White, who has all those anxiety problems, and I don't know, people around the league just hate him, so he didn't even make the team. I don't know why we're talking about him.
This is why the lottery exists.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
bitch and complain every year about the lottery. When, the Bobcats still haven't gotten that number 1 pick, despite how consistently bad they've been, even though they haven't been trying to tank. Seasons like this are why the lottery exists.
Yeah, there's a lot of tanking teams this season, and if there wasn't a lottery system, the Sixers would be guaranteed to get Andrew Wiggins, which,
yep.
I mean, why? Look at football. Football doesn't have a lottery, but you don't know who's going to be the worst team each year. This year, we know the Sixers are going to be the worst team.
Yeah.
So you can just give them Andrew Wiggins, which isn't fair. So have a lottery, at least compete, you know what I mean? And
yeah, it's decent. I hope they don't get the first pick. I think it'd be hilarious if they got stuck at like 4 after winning 8 games this year.
I was just going to ask you about that. Do you think this team breaks 10 wins?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's too hard in today's NBA to not break 10 wins, and the majority of the bad teams this year are in the Eastern Conference. So there's going to be some games against...
They're going to play against the Magic, the Celtics, and the Bobcats, and they're going to win a few of those games. They're going to get over 10.
They're going to rack up 10 games. They'll probably beat the Knicks a couple times because those are the kind of games that the Knicks will drop. That Bobcats team, what did they go, like 6-56 in that lockout shortened season or something?
Yes.
It's 6 or 7 wins, right?
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
But that was just the worst winning percentage. I'm not sure what the actual least number of wins is in the season. But I don't think they're going to break it.
Over 10 wins. Because there's a lot of other teams tanking. That's the thing.
That's the only reason, yeah.
That's all I have to say about the Sixers.
Yeah, I don't. We spent a lot of time on the Sixers, which is crazy because they're the worst team in the league. They're tanking, obviously, and good luck to them. I mean,
Hollis Thompson is their backup small forward. So,
oh God.
There you go.
Who do you have as your next worst team?
I believe I have the Orlando Magic. I do.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. This team also tanking very hard.
See, the difference between the Magic and the Sixers is I really like what they're doing. We talked about this a little bit. I don't know if we actually talked about it on a free agency podcast, but I know we were talking about it over the summer. The fact that they lost Dwight 2 years ago, and now they've assembled this, Nikola Vucevic, Tobias Harris, Victor Oladipo, even like Ichwan Moore and Mo Harkless. These are young guys who could all develop into impact players in the league, and they're all assets that they kind of got because of Howard leaving. It's really amazing how quickly they've turned it around. Even though they're not going to be a good team this year, I really think there's a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. The difference between the Sixers and this team is that the Sixers are tanking with zero talent, and the Magic are tanking with talent. I like Jameer Nelson. He's old, but I like him. Aaron Aflalo is good. Mo Harkless, Tobias Harris, a lot of young guys. You mentioned Nikola Vucevic, and with Victor Oladipo. This team, they're not going to win a lot of games, but
no,
they're going to be good if they get a really high draft pick. They're going to be really good like the next year. This is the way you tank, and they're doing it right. Everybody harped on them because of the Dwight mess, but they ended up with the best player in that trade, which was Tobias Harris. So,
I mean, that harps back to Bucks fans losing Tobias Harris for what? 2 months of JJ Redick or a month of JJ Redick?
Yeah.
That's awesome. But, I mean, it was well done. Like, I look at this roster. These are all guys that I like, all these young guys. Vucevic is a double-double machine.
Last year, he was 13.1 points per game and 11.9 rebounds per game. That's crazy good. He's only 23. He's going to continue to get better.
And he's an asset the Sixers gave up.
Yeah.
He was a Sixers draft pick. As I already said, everybody in the league seems to be really high on Tobias Harris. I like him. I even like Andrew Nicholson. I like Harkless. I love Oladipo. I think he's going to end up being the best player out of this draft class. I don't think Nelson and Aflalo are both in Orlando when the season ends.
Yeah, I was just going to mention
any reason
that.
They would be.
I think if this team starts out hot, which they might because they have a lot of talent, young talent, they're going to ship out Aaron Aflalo, Nelson, maybe Glenn Davis. Like they're trying to get picks. They're trying to tank out. And
well, absolutely. And those are all guys who could contribute to a championship run. Honestly, those are all guys who could fit in really well on a team trying to make a deep playoff run.
You mentioned Tobias Harris. I think Tobias Harris could be a potential superstar 4 or 5 years in the league. He's going to be really good. He has a lot of talent. He could be a game changer. I think Oladipo is going to be interesting this year. He's going to work really, really hard. He's a hard worker, and he's not a point guard, but they're trying to mold him into one. And by the end of the year, I think he'll kind of figure it out how to run an offense.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm really buying him as a point guard. I've heard some people say they might just be trying to do that to make them lose more games. Like, oh, we're going to try him as a point guard this season. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, no, we lost so many games. We got the second pick in the draft.
That honestly wouldn't surprise me if that's what they're doing.
It wouldn't. I don't know how well he sees the floor, really.
That's something you could learn, though.
That's true, and I didn't watch him enough in college. From what I saw from him over the summer and preseason, though, I like the guy. As you said, he's really going to work hard, and he's going to be one of the best perimeter defenders in the league in a couple years, for sure. So, hey, great guy to have on your team, especially if you're rebuilding.
Absolutely. I have next on my list of teams in the Eastern Conference, I have the Charlotte Bobcats.
The Charlotte Horncats.
Yes, the Charlotte Horncats, because they are changing their name back to the Hornets next year.
Yes. Great run for the Bobcats franchise, by the way. What, did they have that one playoff appearance?
Yeah,
with Gerald Wallace as their best player?
And Tyson Chandler was on that team.
Yeah, yep.
Mind you.
And then they couldn't afford to keep either of them?
Yeah,
wow.
Rough times for the Bobcats. I'm glad they're changing their name. They need a new identity.
How confusing is this going to be in 50 years when I'm talking to my grandkids or whatever, and they're like, Grandpa, you're a famous NBA podcaster. I was looking up stats for Chris Paul, and it said he was on the Hornets. But Grandpa, it's not the same Hornets that I'm watching now. There's 2 different Hornets.
Yeah, there's 2 different Hornets, and the history, I don't even know. Wikipedia is going to have trouble figuring this one out.
It's going to be hard. I'm glad I'm experiencing it.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm experiencing it too, because I love just fuckery. It makes me happy. These Bobcats, they added Al Jefferson, which is weird because didn't we think this team was trying to lose to get Andrew Wiggins? Maybe Michael Jordan just doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
I like how the 1 year that maybe they're going for the reverse strategy. They've been the worst team in the league a couple years now, and they haven't gotten that number 1 pick yet. So maybe they're hoping they'll finish in 5th or 6th worst and still get a top 3 pick. The thing about this draft, though, they can appear to be decent to kind of please the fans who've had to sit through this garbage and kind of ease the transition back into the Hornets era, and yay, the Bobcats are gone, and still get a good draft pick, a really good draft pick in this draft. So I don't hate the Al Jefferson signing that much. He's going to shoot a lot. He's going to score a lot of points, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind the Al Jefferson signing because this team is still going to be bad, like you mentioned, and they can still get a really high draft pick, even with Al Jefferson. And if you get a really high draft pick and you have Al Jefferson, you're pretty much set at the center position. And if you get Andrew Wiggins, which, I mean, any one of these teams can get Andrew Wiggins, they're set there, too. So I like the signing, too. Al Jefferson clearly was just like, let me get that money because he didn't go here to win.
Yeah. What? If you're Al Jefferson at this point in your career and you've played, where's he been? Boston, Minnesota, Utah, and now he's in Charlotte, and you've never been in the playoffs except like a 7 or 8 seed, he just really wants to get that money. That's fine.
Why not? Get them checks, big fella.
Yeah. Keep getting that money.
To talk about the rest of the team, I really like their one spot. They have Kemba Walker, who is going to be a good scorer, and their backups are Ramon Sessions and Gennaro Pargo. I like both of those guys because I played with Ramon Sessions in 2K14, and he's good. So
yeah, I like Pargo. I don't know too much about Pargo, to be honest. I really like Sessions as a backup, though. I could see him being a guy who gets traded to a playoff team because he'd be a solid backup point guard on a championship contender. Like, you know, a lot of these bad teams have these assets that they can try to trade away to these, you know, 4 and 5 seeds going into the playoffs. Like, I'm not going to say the Knicks because they don't have any cap room. Like, you know, like Pistons or a Wizards even. Like these kind of teams who are trying to make a splash in the playoff. They have a lot of guys like this. You look at the rest of this team. I like Henderson. I like Gerald Henderson.
Yeah, Henderson had a decent year last year. He was averaging about 2.5 points per game the first few years he was there, and he had 15 points per game last year. But now with this team, he's probably going to start chucking up more, even with Al Jefferson taking a lot of shots. Gerald Henderson, I think, is he's on a high right now. He thinks he's really good, so he's going to take a lot more shots. And the other wing player is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who, oh god,
can't shoot.
That's being nice.
At all.
I watched a video of him practicing with assistant coach Mark Price, one of the best shooters this game has ever seen. And that hitch in his shot.
Yeah, I saw the video too.
If you've never seen Michael Kidd-Gilchrist shoot, he goes up, he's right-handed, and the second he's about to release the ball, his elbow cocks inward and then goes back out and then he shoots it. It's the weirdest, most grossest thing you've ever seen.
I don't understand how you go second in the draft with shooting mechanics that bad. Can you? Because here's the thing we always hear. Is it easier to teach a guy to shoot or to play defense? And 100% of the time, I think it's to play defense, because defense is 95% effort. You see it with some guys developing their jump shots. You've seen, like, John Wall really been working on his jump shots these last few years. This is his 4th year in the league, I think. And his jump shot is getting a lot better. But if you're going to be a small forward, if you're going to be a wing player in this NBA, and you can't shoot the ball at all, every team is not going to guard you. They're going to leave you wide open, like Gerald Wallace was left wide open in the Nets playoff series with the Bulls last year when they lost to a hobbled Joakim Noah and Nate Robinson.
You just wanted to mention that, didn't you?
100%.
I hate you so much. But you're completely right on MKG, which is just a cool... He has the initials going for him. I'll give him that.
He does. I like him. He seems like a really nice kid. He has a really good work ethic. He's a terrific athlete. You just gotta shoot, kid. Like, you can't be a small forward if you can't shoot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's a really good wing defender, which is why he was drafted so high, and because of his potential. He's still really young. He's younger than both of us by, 8 months. And
he's extremely raw.
By the way, folks, we're young. We're actually 14 years old.
Yep.
But,
in my mom's basement right now.
Absolutely. The wing defenders I like both Henderson and MKG as wing defenders, but there's no rim protection with Al Jefferson.
No.
I'm not sure if you've read Zach Lowe's article on Al Jefferson, but Al Jefferson literally knows he's terrible on defense.
I like it.
He described his defense as they come off a screen and Al Jefferson goes through 70 different variables in his mind and he can't figure out. And by the time he figures it out, they've already gotten a layup on him. He's so bad defensively. And he knows it, but I don't think he can get better.
Yeah. And the rest of their big men, you got Biyombo, 29-year-old Bismack Biyombo. What is it? He says he's like 23 or something.
He's not. He's 45 years old, and he's 6'9". You can't be a center and be 6'9".
No. They've got Haywood, who's banged up and old, and they've got Josh McRoberts is apparently slotted in to start at power forward, although Cody Zeller is going to take that role.
Yeah, I think Cody Zeller is going to take that role.
What do you think of Zeller?
Zeller's really, really athletic, and I think he has a shot at being Rookie of the Year, but
he's a little foreshadowing. He may or may not be my pick for Rookie of the Year.
Interesting.
He is.
I think he
is my pick.
Oh, way to ruin it. He is he is very talented, and I'm not really sure what to make of him yet because I haven't seen him play, but he's not going to get a lot of shots, so he just needs to do his job well, which is screen and run the floor.
Yeah, he's not going to get a lot of shots, but he should get a lot of playing time because this is a very weak front court in Charlotte.
Yeah, they have a new coach in Steve Clifford. Mike Dunlap got fired last year, and I have to mention Steve Clifford with Ben Gordon because Ben Gordon was the biggest douchebag to Mike Dunlap in the world. I'm not sure if you heard the story, but at practice, Mike Dunlap was talking, and Ben Gordon just standing there dribbling a ball, and Mike Dunlap goes, "Excuse me, Ben, could you stop it?" And he's like, "Okay," and then keeps dribbling like a 4-year-old. Ben Gordon's 30 years old.
Yeah. Come on. So immature.
Yeah, I think Ben Gordon's going to be traded. He has an expiring contract, which is $12 million somehow. And
who wants him, though? That's the thing.
Well,
I guess
teams that need...
He can score.
He has a great three-point shot. His shooting percentage for his career is 40% from three, which is good. And teams are going to want that expiring contract. They'll rent him for 2 months. They don't care. And they'll just let him shoot.
He's your Jamal Crawford, J.R. Smith, Nick Young, come off the bench, score 12 points, and go sit down.
Yeah, he's much more efficient than all those guys.
He's a lightning in a bottle type of guy, and he can fill it up. And he has no place on this team. He really doesn't.
No, that's why I think he's going to get traded.
Absolutely.
But the Bobcats, they have a chance to be good in the coming years. So look out for them.
Yeah. I'm happy. Let's have a moment of silence here for the Charlotte Bobcats era.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Steve. That was very nice. Thank you. It's over.
Rest in peace, Bobcats.
Rest in peace.
All right, who do you have next on your list?
I have the Boston Celtics.
Wow, we're agreeing on a lot of stuff right now. I have the Boston Celtics as well.
It's pretty easy to peg the bottom 4 teams in the Eastern Conference.
Well, just whatever.
Yeah.
They added this year Kelly Olynyk, Gerald Wallace, Chris Humphries, Keith Bogans, Marshawn Brooks, and Brad Stevens. I know about Chris Humphries, Keith Bogans, Marshawn Brooks, and Gerald Wallace because I'm a Nets fan, and those guys are clearly just being taken to get rid of the older guys, Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, because this team is tanking. And by tanking, I mean, they're rebuilding, because this team will not say they're tanking, but they're tanking.
Oh, they're 100% tanking. Speaking of rebuilding, real quick note on the Sixers. Did you see what their slogan is this year?
What's that?
Together we build. So
they're not even trying to hide it.
They're not. They're just flat out saying, yeah, we're fucking tanking. Anyway, to Boston. Let's credit those former Nets players, Brooks, Wallace, Humphries. I don't think Humphries. No, it was Brooks, Bogans, and Humphries. And for the greatest press conference picture of all time. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, find it on the interwebs,
it's
folks, because they're not
so sad.
It's the saddest thing I've ever seen. Even Brad Stevens isn't happy, and he's smiling.
Nope. Great.
But the funny thing about this team is that they're tanking, but I honestly think they're too talented to tank.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
They got to get rid of Rondo. And I think they might try to. They're going to shop him.
Oh, they've been shopping Rondo for the last 5 years.
That's true. Especially with Pierce and Garnett gone. That's, I think Simmons, it was, who had a really good analogy. He said, you don't decide to blow up the house and just leave one room. So, getting rid of Pierce and Garnett, you got to get rid of Rondo, too. Just start it over.
Yeah, why not? Rondo's going to be out for a while. He tore his ACL last year, I think in January, so he might not play for a while. And honestly, they should just keep him out. Like, why even bother? If you're just going to get rid of him, just not even bother. Avery Bradley and Courtney Lee are probably going to start for this team. And I liked Courtney Lee 3 years ago, but I don't like him anymore.
Yeah. Courtney Lee, to me, is just like your stereotypical replacement level third-string shooting guard on a good team. I don't really know what else to say about him. Not a big fan. I like Jordan Crawford.
I like Jordan Crawford because he has a humpback.
Yeah, and he thinks he's better than Michael Jordan and LeBron.
Well, he is. I mean, come on.
He's another lighted up off the bench guy, though.
Yeah,
I like him.
he is.
I don't like him on this team. I don't know what the hell he's going to do up here in Boston.
He'll play a lot of minutes, though, because I think Brad Stevens is going to play him a lot. We didn't mention that Brad Stevens is the new coach. He came over from Butler. He got signed to a 6-year deal, so clearly he's here for the rebuild.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a beautiful beginning of a beautiful marriage between Brad Stevens and the Celtics front office. The one thing Danny Ainge has shown that he knows how to do, he knows how to run a front office and he knows how to run a team. Giving Brad Stevens a 6-year contract and saying, hey, we know you're going to suck for the first 3 years. That's how it should be for every NBA coach.
Well, yeah.
Especially making the transition from college to the NBA with a bare roster with none of his guys. I think the Celtics, they're going to be just fine. They're going to bounce back very strong in a couple years.
This is why I don't think they're going to be that terrible. They have a lot of veteran guys in Gerald Wallace, Keith Bogans, Humphreys, Jeff Green, Brandon Bass is old, that are just going to be competitive. They don't want to tank out. They want to win, so they're going to try their hardest. So they'll be in some games. Speaking of Brandon Bass, he's paired up with Kelly Olynyk from Gonzaga, and there's no rim protection with those two.
No, but I like Kelly Olynyk a lot.
I like them offensively.
He was like the MVP of the Summer League. He was putting up like triple doubles every night.
It's crazy.
He's a beast. And he what's the nickname I saw him get? Neon Jesus?
Neon Jesus. If you find that picture
that.
too on the interwebs.
Good picture. He's a goofy looking guy, and I don't know, I like him. He's Canadian. The Canadians are taking over the NBA, slowly but surely. Wait till Wiggins gets here.
Here's a question. Who the hell is scoring on this team?
Jeff Green, I guess, right? That's what they're thinking. You got to get a good Jeff Green night if you want to win. This team doesn't want to win, I don't think. But we saw it with the Celtics last year. They really relied on Jeff Green a lot. In that series with the Knicks in the playoffs, they played their best basketball when Jeff Green was playing good basketball. They need him to score, and he is just such a confusing player.
He really is. He's very inconsistent. He has the talent to light it up, but he has some of the worst footwork I've seen in the league, especially on like Euro steps and stuff. He jumps off the wrong foot all the time, and he has talent, but he's going to score a lot. That's why I picked him for my fantasy team, too, because he is the only viable option on this team.
It's true. Gerald Wallace is terrible. We already talked about him a little bit when we were referencing the Nets last year. He can't do anything anymore. Obviously, he was just the expiring contract or it's not even an expiring contract.
No, he's on contract for another 4 years.
He was that terrible contract that had to be taken for them to unload KG and Pierce. They're going to shop that if Rondo goes, Gerald Wallace goes with him.
Yeah, he has to.
Has to. You're not keeping that fucking contract.
Speaking of Rondo, I think Rondo's attitude is really going to affect this team. He's going to look at this team when he comes back and just be like, I don't even want to play. Just get rid of me.
He didn't want to play half the time when he had Allen, Pierce, and Garnett with him.
He's a moody player. Very moody.
He is. And I can't say I like Rajon Rondo because I've cursed his name more than once. I respect the hell out of Rajon Rondo, and he's one of my favorite point guards to watch in the league because he is so talented. But he's kind of hard to peg emotionally. You never really know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not that big on Rajon Rondo because I think all of his assist numbers are him trying to get big assist numbers. He will give up an open layup to pass it to someone else so he can get an extra assist.
That's true. And he's been in the league for, 6-7 years now, and he still can't shoot at all. That's not good for a point guard, a star point guard.
Yeah, it's really not. I like him. Avery Bradley is going to be their starter, and he can't shoot a lick unless he's in the corner wide open. And I think he's a little overrated defensively. People peg him as one of the best defensive players in the league, but I'm not sure if you saw him in the playoffs.
Yeah, he got dominated by Raymond Felton, and he puts up gaudy steals numbers some nights, but Raymond Felton is far from a top point guard. There's a lot of guys a lot better than him that you're going to have to guard. So, I don't know. This Celtics team, they're trying to be bad. They're going to shop Rondo. I don't know if they find a home for him this year. I don't know if they find the right deal because you're really going to have to get something, a big piece back for him. It might be next summer till we see Rondo going, but I don't think he's here for long, and Celtics are going to be one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference.
Absolutely. My next team that I have.
This is where we're going to start to disagree.
Sweet. That's what I want to hear. I have the Toronto Raptors.
I have the Milwaukee Bucks. To make light of my prediction from the NBA free agency podcast, our very first podcast, where I pissed off all of Milwaukee and said the Bucks were going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I still don't like this roster, though. I really don't. They have 9 forwards.
It's not that great. They added O.J. Mayo and Brandon Knight when they got rid of Brandon Jennings. They added Caron Butler. They added Gary Neal, Zaza Pachulia, Carlos Delfino, and they also added a new coach, Larry Drew, coming over from Atlanta.
And they added a player who I just watched a YouTube video on to make sure I could say his name correctly, and is going to be my favorite part of the Bucks this year, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
The Greek Freak.
That's the only time you hear me say that this season.
He needs a nickname.
I think Greek Freak's good.
Okay, but
have you seen his hands, though?
Oh,
his hands are so fucking big.
No, they're not just big. It's scary how big. He could lift me up by my head, just putting his hand on my head.
He could palm my chest. He's got big hands.
Yeah, very big hands.
I want him to be a monster. I really do.
That would be fun.
It would be.
I don't think this team is as bad as you think it is.
Okay.
I think it's worse. No, I'm messing with you.
Yeah, I guess I should lead the discussion here on the Bucks since I had them lower rated. Here's why I don't like the Bucks. They have 9 forwards. I already said it. Actually, I'm looking at the roster now. Technically, they have 10 because they're counting Antetokounmpo as a forward. I thought he was a guard, but that's 10 forwards. Butler, Caron Butler, who's done. Carlos Delfino. I'm not sure how I feel about him. I like Ilyasova. I kind of like John Henson. I love Larry Sanders. Udo, Pachulia. Pachulia was a bad signing. As much as I like those guys, they can't all play.
You don't really need them to all play.
I like 3 of those 10 big men that they have.
I think John Henson is going to be their breakout player.
I think he could have a good season.
Yeah, I think Ilyasova is probably going to get less minutes. I like Ilyasova as much as the next guy, but Henson is probably the guy they want in there, you know?
Yeah, he's developing. He's a young guy, and he was a lottery pick.
And Larry Sanders, who we both love. Larry Sanders.
Love Larry Sanders.
He's great defensively, but he can't score to save his life.
Not at all. Not at all.
And the big Achilles heel of this team is that they have Brandon Knight as their point guard.
Awful.
Yeah.
What did we see him do in Detroit that made Minnesota think, that made Milwaukee think, let's just swap. Let's just swap Brandon Jennings. Let's swap Brandons.
Yeah, they didn't want Brandon Jennings. That's the only reason. And this is the best deal they could find.
That's fine, but
Brandon Knight cannot run an offense. He is absolutely terrible at it.
He is. He doesn't see the floor well. He's not good off the pick and roll. I don't understand why this team didn't just try to blow it up. Honestly. Keep Larry Sanders, keep John Henson, keep Ilyasova for all I care. Don't go get O.J. Mayo to replace Monte Ellis. What are you doing? It's almost the same guy. I love O.J. Mayo, but he's a scorer who doesn't play defense. He takes less bad shots than Mayo, or than Ellis, but not that much. And you downgraded at point guard, but you're still kind of in contention because you're one of the... I could still see them squeezing in as an 8 seed.
No way.
Why?
No way.
Why are you doing this?
They will not squeeze in an 8 seed. I don't care what you say. Listen, Brandon Knight is so bad that I think Luke Ridnour takes over his starting job by the end of the year.
I wouldn't be surprised. I like Walters. I like Nate Walters.
Yeah, he's good.
As a rookie. Where'd he go to? I don't know where. Oh, South Dakota State. He was a jackrabbit. That's right.
Yeah, you mentioned O.J. Mayo as well. O.J. Mayo is a good scorer, but he's not a good enough scorer to make them relevant at all. He is better than Monte Ellis, I'll give you that. But other than that, this team is not going anywhere. Caron Butler...
That's just a bad contract to have.
He's old.
I mean, he's old, and I guess that's the kind of contract you take if you're trying to tank. But they're clearly not. The fact that Bill Simmons had them ranked, 16th, 15th in his NBA preview, makes me think he's not actually a good sportsman. But between him ranking them so high and being so bad on his NFL picks this year, I think he's been bullshitting the whole time, and there's somebody else pulling the strings.
Probably.
Because I don't see it with this team at all.
I still think they're better than the Raptors. I had them one spot above you did.
I like the Raptors a little better. Are we ready to move on to the Raptors? Do you have anything else to say about
I just want to mention Gary Neal is on this team now, and I really like Gary Neal. He's a heat check guy. So this team, it's bad, but it's not the worst team in the world. I think they finish above the Raptors, but who knows? This team, it's not that good. I don't care what anybody says. Not that good. So let's move on to the Raptors, because that's who I had.
I had them at 10, so we just had them flip-flop.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, they're close. They're really close. This is how I feel about this team. it could go one of two ways. They could sneak into the 8th spot in the playoffs and everybody stays put, or they could start out slow and Masai Ujiri, who is their new GM coming over from Denver, blows up the entire roster.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about them. So I wasn't really sure where to peg them. Honestly, everybody's talking about Rudy Gay as the guy who's going to get traded this year. I don't know. I think they have to start out badly for him to get traded.
Yeah.
Because I think this is a team that could legitimately they could even be the 7th seed in the East.
Maybe.
If everybody plays to their potential, I kind of like Kyle Lowry. DeMar DeRozan, I think he's a little overrated in circles.
Yeah, in circles, he's a little overrated, but I think him and Rudy Gay are more or less the same player. But hold on a second. Guys, Rudy Gay can see.
Yeah. Well,
he can see now. He blamed all of his bad shots, missing shots on he couldn't see last year, so he got LASIK eye surgery, and now he can see. So honestly, I think Masai Ujiri, who knows what he's doing, he has no attachment to Rudy Gay. He did not pick him up. Some other guy did.
I don't think if he has any attachment to anybody on the squad, except maybe Valanciunas.
Yeah, that's it. But if Rudy Gay starts out hot, I think some team is going to jump in and try to take him, and Masai Ujiri is going to get a shitload of assets for him.
Yep.
That's why I think he's going to get traded. Just for that reason alone.
This team with Ujiri at the helm, something good's going to be coming their way in the next couple of years. He knows what he's doing. You saw what he did with Denver. That's a team that never really had like a premier, well, they had Melo, excuse me. But for the last couple years, they didn't have a premier superstar, and they were the 3 seed in the West last year.
Yeah.
That was a team that won games. They never really got over the hump in the playoffs, but that was a team that won games.
You mentioned Valanciunas. Everyone and their mothers thinks he's going to have an amazing year, and I'm on board.
Why not? I don't know anything about him. I'll be honest with you there.
I know he's talented on both ends of the floor, and he's young, and he can play.
Yeah, and he's a big man, so...
They picked up DJ Augustine to play behind Kyle Lowry. DJ Augustine is coming off the worst performance in the playoffs I've ever seen by a point guard. Like he got destroyed by the Heat. Absolutely manslaughtered.
Yep. He's a big reason the Pacers lost that series.
It's true.
Him and the rest of their bench.
Speaking of Kyle Lowry, he's in a contract year, so he's going to try to play out of his mind. And I like him as a point guard. I think his contract is very, very low, and he was a steal when they got him, but he didn't do much last year. We got to see how he plays this year. I like him, but I'm not that high on him.
Yeah. They have my favorite bomber, Steve Novak.
Yeah, you're very familiar with Steve Novak.
I'm very familiar with Steve Novak. His name was on the back of my I Am Basketball jersey last year. I'm pouring one out for Steve Novak not being on the Knicks anymore. Other small forwards, they got Landry Fields, who's just not a good basketball player.
Yo, he got his money, though.
He did get his money.
And then he stopped playing.
He always looked all right with the Knicks. Yeah, he's not good. Not good at basketball. Oh, and then Tyler Hansborough. I don't know what to make of that signing. I don't really know how I feel about him. Did you see him get completely bitched by Meta World Peace in the preseason the other night?
I did. It's great.
That was so funny.
Hansborough, he looked like he was going to fight whoever was touching him, and then he turned around and saw a Meta World Peace and just was like, nope, fuck that.
He's like, yo, my fault, bro, my fault. I love it.
How do you feel about Amir Johnson as their 4?
I kind of like Amir Johnson, honestly.
He's a tough guy. Very tough guy.
I also kind of hate that this team gave up Ed Davis in that Rudy Gay trade last year.
Yeah, that was a bad move.
I really like Ed Davis.
But Masai Ujiri wasn't the GM back then, so.
It's true. So, I mean, it's not on him. But, I don't know. I like Johnson, though. He's decent. Yeah. As you said, this team could, if Rudy Gay can see and starts shooting above 40% from the field.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Which is low. That's low, folks. You don't want to be 40%. You want to be in the 50 range.
You do not. I don't know. I think they're better than Milwaukee, though. Definitely.
Yeah, I could flip-flop either of those guys. Now we're going to move on to... This is tough for me because the 6, 7, and 8 spots in the Eastern Conference are really hard to peg, and there's 4 teams that could potentially be in there, and the 9th spot is just hard to choose. Most people are going to be upset with my choice because everybody loves this team, but I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are not going to make the playoffs.
So do I. And you were pissed that I agreed with you.
I wasn't expecting that.
Me to have the Cavs high. Well, I thought about it. Originally, I did these rankings last week for the radio show I do at school, and I had the Cavs as the 8 seed and I was thinking about it, and I looked at I have the Hawks as my 8. Spoiler alert. This Cavs team, there's just too high of a chance for injuries. I do really like what they're doing, though. The one thing I don't like is that they specifically didn't spend money last summer because they think LeBron's coming next year.
Honestly, it's not that far-fetched.
I'm still in the camp that he is not coming. He's not leaving Miami. I've been in that camp all summer, and I'm going to stay in that camp until next summer when he inks that extension with the Heat.
Okay, relax. Here's my thing with the Cavs. If this team is 100% healthy all year, they're in the playoffs, no doubt.
Yep.
Absolutely. But you can't expect this team to be unhealthy, but I am expecting them to be unhealthy. Andrew Bynum, we have no idea how he's going to play. He didn't play a single minute with the Sixers. Anderson Varejao seems always to be injured. So, are they going to even have centers in this?
That's what I'm saying. Who the hell is going to play defense inside? Tristan Thompson? Isn't he like 6'7"?
He is 6'7".
Anthony Bennett? He's small.
And fat.
Tyler Zeller? The worst Zeller brother? Like, no.
Name that Zeller.
Yeah. The bad one. Tyler. Okay, got it. Now, for the record, I really like the Bynum signing just because of the value, and it's really there's no downside. The worst case scenario, he plays like shit and you cut him and you don't lose anything.
Very true.
But
you might have noticed we haven't mentioned Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is going to be absolutely nasty this year.
Mm-hmm.
Could be top 5 in scoring. Wouldn't be surprised. I think he was top 5 in scoring last year. He's a monster.
Yeah.
Very good offensively. Defensively, he's pretty terrible, but that's why they hired Mike Brown. Mike Brown, great defensive coach. Maybe a little overrated because he coached Kobe and LeBron, so we're not really sure what to make of him.
What a weird hire. I don't think he's a good coach. But just because let's see how he does this year. Let's see how he does.
They're doing it just to get LeBron.
Yeah, not coming.
You can say that, but I don't know.
It's all going to blow up in your face. It's all going to blow up in their face, and then they're going to say, why the hell did we waste the summer of 2013 waiting for LeBron? He burned us once. Do Cavs fans get pissed at LeBron again if he doesn't come back next summer? Do they start burning his jerseys again?
Do they still have his jerseys?
Well, maybe.
They probably do.
They buy Heat jerseys and start burning them.
What a waste of money.
No, I like Kyrie. Everybody likes Kyrie. He's a monster. He's going to be a monster.
Best handles in the league. We don't have to say much about Kyrie Irving because we know he's going to be great. The defense of this team last year was 14th in the Eastern Conference. If you can't do math, that's second to last. It's terrible. That's why they hired Mike Brown. I like the hire of Mike Brown, even though you're not too high on. My favorite thing with this team, the Jarrett Jack signing.
Yeah.
I love Jarrett Jack. He's one of my favorite players right now.
He's one of the best role players in the league. Not even role players. He's one of the best sixth men bench players in the league to have. Probably top 3 backup. Well, definitely top 3 backup point guards in the league.
I would put him at the best backup point guard.
I don't know how much I like him for this team. I kind of wanted to see a team who is actually going to contend for the finals get Jarrett Jack because I think he'd be more valuable. I don't know.
I agree with you on that, but Jarrett Jack is so versatile. He can play the 2 and be off ball while Kyrie has the ball, or he can handle the ball while Kyrie doesn't have the ball, and he can just spot him and take threes. Jarrett Jack I think he's really good for this team. Because Dion Waiters, I'm not really sure what to make of Dion Waiters yet. He's going to get better as his career goes on. But Jarrett Jack, if you sign the best backup point guard in the league, it's a good signing, regardless. I don't know who's going to start at the 3, though. It could be Alonzo G or Earl Clark or Miles.
Yeah, I don't like any of those guys, honestly. I like Earl Clark as a bench player.
Not as a starter.
Yeah, Alonzo G started last year. I'm not too high on him. He's never been more than an average player, really. And Miles is really just a 3-point shooter. So that's definitely a question mark. Why did they pick Anthony Bennett, number 1?
Because
Why?
They didn't know who to pick. There's nobody in this draft that you should pick number 1. They had the burden of picking number 1. And Anthony Bennett could be good. He could be terrible. I think he'll be a solid role player, but that's not a number 1 pick worthy. Then again, Andrea Bargnani was a number 1 pick.
Pick Oladipo. Pick Nerlens Noel. Pick Nerlens Noel, have him sit out a year, and then when Bynum and Varejao both play 40 games combined this year, just fucking, then he's your center of the future. Pick Oladipo, and then you can kind of figure out who's better between him and Deion Waiters. I thought they really liked Tristan Thompson. Can Bennett play the 3?
He's not nearly as quick enough to play the 3, but he can play it in some lineups. I don't really know.
I don't know. Nobody's talking about this guy, about Anthony Bennett. Nobody's considering him for Rookie of the Year. Nobody's talking about how he could have a big season. So, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see him play too much this year.
Probably not. And let me just be clear one more time. If Andrew Bynum and Anderson Varejao and Kyrie Irving is also injury prone, stay healthy, this team is going to be very good. Because Bynum was a top 2 center in the league a few years ago. If he can get anywhere close to that, this team is going to be good. But I don't think they're going to be healthy.
It's a playoff team. No, there's too many question marks.
Absolutely. Now we're going to go into the playoffs for the Eastern Conference.
Ooh, 50 minutes into the podcast.
So
Jesus
what?
Christ.
So what? We knew this would be long.
We did.
We love the basketballs. We disagree very much on this team. You picked the Hawks to be in the 8th seed?
Yep.
I picked the Wizards to be in the 8th seed.
I like the Wizards a lot.
I like them too, but who do you want to talk about first? Because I have the Hawks as a 6th seed.
Really?
Yeah, I'm high on the Hawks.
Oh, man.
Very high on the Hawks.
It's up to you. Up to you, man.
Let's talk about the Wizards.
Okay.
Because I had a hard time choosing between them and the Cavaliers of who to take out of the playoffs. This team, yesterday, or 2 days ago, just got Marcin Gortat. What a great pickup.
Yeah, awesome. They flipped Okafor, who was hurt. They had to give up, a first-round pick?
They did.
It's a good trade for both teams.
Oh, yeah, very good trade.
Washington gets a solid center, a solid scoring center. They can move Nene to the 4, and they have a good front court now on a team that's really thinks they're a playoff team. Likewise, the Suns are just stockpiling draft picks. They're going to be good in a couple of years at this rate. So I like the trade for both teams. Here's why the Wizards are a playoff team. John Wall.
John Wall. I love me some John Wall.
John Wall might be the fastest player in the league.
Yeah.
John Wall can get to the rim at will. John Wall is developing a jump shot.
If he develops a jump shot, he will dominate this league.
It's already a lot better. And if he can shoot mid-ranges now, and if he can learn to shoot that 3 ball, forget about it. He's so quick. He's so explosive. And he's solid defensively, too. I love John Wall.
Yeah, I love John Wall, too. When he came back last year, he was injured for most of the year. He came back, played about 49 games. This was his numbers. 18.5 points per game, 7.6 assists. There was no other offensive weapons besides him. How did he do that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I love him. I really do. And I love that they gave him that huge extension, so they know he's there to stay. There's no question of them losing him in the offseason or anything. I really like the pairing of him and Bradley Beal.
Love Bradley Beal.
I really think this team's going to be able to score points.
They will.
Honestly.
Their only question is defense. And with Beal, he was a rookie last year, shot 39% from 3, and that was with Wall out of the lineup.
That's awesome.
He's going to be great. He's going to be a solid 3-point shooter. He's going to increase. I love Bradley Beal. What a great pick they got at number 3.
Yeah, really like Bradley Beal. They're starting Ariza at the 3. Whatever. They could also throw Martell Webster in there, who was a handcuff deal for John Wall.
Absolutely.
He got paid. Same agent. They drafted Otto Porter.
I don't think Otto Porter's going to play that much at all.
I don't see why he would. This is a team that's trying to make the playoffs. The theme of this whole preview is going to be this draft was bad.
Very bad.
And I don't think anybody's too high on Otto Porter.
Yeah, he didn't play well in the preseason or summer league, and the small forward position on this team is way too deep. They have Ariza and Webster, you mentioned. They could throw either of them in there, and Otto Porter just shouldn't play that much. It's just not going to happen. Maybe in a few years he will. Maybe they flip him for somebody. Who knows? I want to talk a little bit about Gortat, because Emeka Okafor had a huge injury. Wasn't really sure when he was going to come back. Gortat can score. He's great in the pick and roll. Him with John Wall in the pick and roll is going to be great. I'm happy that John Wall finally has a pick and roll partner.
Me too. I really think it's going to be great. And, Gortat is quietly a really good offensive center.
He really is. He's been buried on the Suns' team for a
Nobody
while
cares
now.
about the Suns. Nobody cares about the Suns. So that's why he's been quietly. But he can score, and he's got a decent mid-range shot. He can face the basket, and I like the combination of him and Nene on offense. I am worried about them on defense a lot, especially down low.
Yeah,
That's the big question mark.
defense is going to be tough for them. I'm not even sure how they're going to handle it. I like John Wall defensively. Not sure if Bradley Beal can defend twos. Martell Webster's not defending LeBron. So it's really on Nene and Marcin Gortat. We have to see what happens. I think they're going to trade Ariza. He's an expiring deal, so they might get a big man in there. I don't really know. Obviously, Washington is clearly trying to make some moves here with the acquisition of Gortat, so expect them to make more moves.
Yeah, I really like this team. I don't know how you're leaving them out of the playoffs. I enjoy them.
Yeah, I'm not leaving them out of the playoffs. They're my 8th seed.
Oh, you had them at the 8, right?
Yeah, I originally had them out of the playoffs, but then they got Gortat, and I was like sold.
That's fair. I think they're better than the Hawks, though. So let's make the Hawks our next team.
Well, I have the Hawks as a 6th seed.
Well, let's talk about the Hawks because I think the Pistons are the unanimous 6th seed.
I think you're
Eastern
crazy.
Conference. I don't even think it's a question.
Think you're crazy.
Are you high?
I have the no. Yeah, I'm sorry. I am. I have the Pistons as my 7th seed, so it's not that far off.
Let's talk about the Pistons then. What don't you like about the Pistons?
Spacing.
Okay.
That's basically
Spacing?
it. That's basically it.
What? Okay. Here's what I don't like about the Hawks. Their best scorer is hurt. Kyle Korver is their starting shooting guard. He's not a starter. Damari Carroll is their starting small forward. I like Millsap and Horford, but I don't know. I think the Hawks are going to be a team. I think they're going to be that team who you see halfway through the year say, you know what? Let's blow this up a little bit and try to get a lottery pick.
I think you're crazy. I like the Hawks a lot.
Okay. Who are we talking about?
We're going to talk about the Hawks because I guess you want to talk about the Pistons, but you keep talking about the Hawks, so let's talk about them.
I like the Pistons too much to talk about them this early.
We're talking about the Hawks. We're talking about the Hawks.
Let's go.
You did mention their best scorer is gone. I don't think Lou Williams is their best scorer.
I do.
Well, shut the hell up then.
He can fill it up.
Yes, he can. And he's going to come back, I promise. But you mentioned the starting lineup, Kyle Korver. I love Kyle Korver. Best three-point shooter in the league by far. Obviously, Steph Curry's up there off the dribble, but spot-up shooter, it's probably Kyle Korver.
That's fair.
Let me talk about this team a little bit because I think they're basically the same team they were last year, but without Josh Smith.
The East is better.
The East is better, yes. Let me get this off my chest.
Okay.
I love me some Al Horford. He had his best season last year. It's going to get better this year. Last year, he had 17.4 points per game on 54% shooting, mind you, 10.4 rebounds a game, and 1.1 blocks. Because Josh Smith is not in there taking up a bunch of shots, Horford's going to score a lot more. His mid-range game is automatic. He can fill it down low. He's great defensively. I love him. Now, replacing Josh Smith with Paul Millsap. You cannot tell me there's a better power forward to replace Josh Smith with than Paul Millsap.
I still think Josh Smith is a 3.
He's not.
Number 1. All right, that's fine. I like Paul Millsap. I do. He's undersized for a power forward. I worry about that defensively. They're going to be a lot worse defensively. Josh Smith is a great defensive 4. What is Millsap, like 6'9"?
He is 6'9".
I don't think he's a great defender. And you didn't even bring up Damari Carroll starting at small forward.
I want to talk about the good things first. Can I talk about the good things?
Talk about the good things. I like Al Horford as well. I like Paul Millsap. I like Elton Brand off the bench. I don't like Damari Carroll starting. I hate Kyle Korver starting because I do not think he's a starter.
Okay.
I love Kyle Korver as a 3-point specialist. I think he's absolutely the best. Feed him and he'll gun it guy in the league. I don't like him as a starter. I kind of like Jeff Teague.
I love Jeff Teague. Have you seen playoff Jeff Teague? He's amazing.
That's fine. Let's see him get to the playoffs. I have him in the playoffs. They're my 8 seed. They're my 8 seed.
6 coming at you.
But I could easily see them dropping out and getting replaced by the Raptors or getting replaced by the Cavs.
Maybe. I don't think so, though. I love the Hawks.
People from around the league are really high on Dennis Schroeder as well.
Yeah.
The German. I like him.
I like him too.
He could be solid. But I just don't. You're putting this team up against a Pistons team. Like let's look at the comparisons between the starting 5. You got Brandon Jennings. I don't like that Chauncey Billups is slotted in at the shooting guard. I hope that's a typo. You got Brandon Jennings, Rodney Stuckey, KCP, or Chauncey Billups at the 2. Josh Smith, Greg Monroe, and Andre Drummond. The Hawks are starting two role players.
You need to relax.
They're starting two role players. Damari Carroll.
I like Paul
Justify
Millsap
me.
better than Josh Smith. When Josh Smith took mid-range shots,
I love Josh
you
Smith.
screamed. Like, no, Josh Smith. Paul Millsap from mid-range, 10 to 15 feet, shot 47.7% last year.
Josh Smith gets so much flack. He gets so much flack because he takes those shots. But Josh Smith is the reason those Hawks teams were in the playoffs.
This is why I think that Detroit is going to be worse than Atlanta. Lou Williams will be back. He's going to be good. He's very talented. They're an all-around good team. Very good team. Mike Budenholzer. 17 years he was an assistant with Popovich. He's going to be a very good coach. He might be Popovich for all we know. And I think Elton Brand can make an impact.
I like Elton Brand, but Damari Carroll. Is Damari Carroll guarding LeBron? Who's guarding LeBron? Paul Millsap? No.
They get to play the bottom of the East. I like this team.
So do all these other playoff teams, though.
You're right.
I just don't.
You're absolutely right.
I don't know.
I like the Hawks. I'm really high on them because everybody else is so low on them. I think this team's going to surprise you, and I think they can get a 6 seed very easily.
I still think they're a playoff team, but I in no way think they're better than the Pistons.
Well, let's talk about the Pistons then. I love the crazy, wacky team this turned out to be.
They are my... I got to pick 5 League Pass teams. They are my team, other than the Knicks, obviously, that I am the most excited to watch.
Oh, they should.
I'm going to watch a lot of Pistons games.
Oh, they should have been number 1, absolutely. This lineup, full of funny guys. Brandon Jennings, Chauncey Billups, Josh Smith, Greg Monroe, Andre Drummond. You did mention that while you were screaming at me about the Hawks. This team could be great and goofy, or they could spiral right into the toilet.
I don't think they will. Here's the thing. I don't think we're going to see Josh Smith, Greg Monroe, and Andre Drummond on the floor together that much. You mentioned spacing. Drummond isn't going to get that many minutes this year.
Why?
He's still young. He's still developing. I think he's only going to play like 25 minutes a game. I don't think he's ready to be on the floor in crunch time.
Andre Drummond has the potential to be an amazing center, and you have to have him on the floor.
Potential. I think they're really taking their time with Drummond because he is their most prized possession. They love Andre Drummond, and rightly so. They know that there's possible spacing issues here. Greg Monroe is fully capable of playing the center, and Josh Smith is fully capable of playing the 4. Then you can put those guys in, play a little small ball. Put Kyle Singler. People are high on this Luigi Datome guy. He's a small forward. Slot him in. I like Jennings. I actually think he's going to succeed in Detroit this year.
Oh, I agree with you.
I think it was, I never thought it was right for him in Milwaukee. Chauncey Billups needs to put a suit on now, though. I was arguing with Mike Essie about this, who you know is a huge Detroit sports fan, is in love with Chauncey Billups, and he wouldn't talk to me on air when I told him Chauncey Billups. I thought Chauncey Billups was hired as an assistant. But he's burnt out. He can't be their starting shooting guard. He tried to tell me, well, Billups is going to mentor Brandon Jennings. Yes, I like that. I like that a lot. But let's get him a fucking suit and let's let him sit next to Sheed because he cannot be on the floor.
Yeah, he tore his Achilles a few years ago, and he hasn't been the same since. He's been pretty terrible, actually.
He's done.
And I agree that he's done, but I think if you put him on this team just to shoot threes, it would be great. Defensively, last year, this team was absolutely terrible. This year, their inside defense is absolutely scary. Josh Smith, Greg Monroe, and Andre Drummond, I don't know who is going on inside on this team. But offensively, I wouldn't be surprised if teams that played them just rolled out a red carpet around the perimeter. Because they can figure out this team very easily. Just be like, okay, let him shoot. Because Josh Smith is terrible from mid-range. Brandon Jennings has shown that he can shoot, but he takes way too many bad shots. I think this year he's not going to take that many bad shots. I like this team as much as you, just not a 6 seed. I like him as a 7 seed. I just like the Hawks better than this team. That's all my thing is.
All right. I mean, we got to agree to disagree there. I also think the Pistons have a much better shot against some of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. I think they match up better with the Heat, with the Pacers, with the Bulls, whether it's a playoff series or whether it's a single game. I'm not saying this team's going to win a first-round series because the top 4 teams in the East are probably all going to win their first-round series because they're all very good. But I really like Josh Smith. I love that they got him.
Josh Smith is a funny guy because he was underrated Then he was overrated, and now, because he was so overrated, I think he's underrated again.
Yeah, he's such a divisive player. People love him, like I do, or they absolutely hate him.
Well, here's the thing. All players have that 10%, if they're really good players, of things that you hate about them. Yeah. And Josh Smith's 10% is just right in your face. You notice it so much, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like this team, too. I think they have way too much talent to miss the playoffs. Some people have them out of the playoffs, which I think is absurd.
That's ridiculous.
The spacing is going to be an issue, but they have great shooters on the outside. They have Singler. We didn't even mention Contavious Caldwell-Pope, who is apparently just a lights-out shooter. And Billups, if he just stands there and takes threes, he'll be fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, with the spacing, I don't think those three guys are going to see that much time on the floor together.
I think Mo Cheeks, as a coach, is going to play them together a lot because just look at the possibilities you can do defensively with that team. I don't know. We'll see. You have them as a 6 seed. I have them as a 7 seed.
And I think they're a lock.
All right. We'll see at the end of the year.
We will.
We're going to disagree on the top 5 of this conference. I know, because you already told me who you have as your 5, which I think is just completely wrong.
Number 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. Brooklyn.
No way.
Brooklyn.
I disagree. We should talk about the team. We should talk about the Knicks. The Knicks are the 5th seed. Everyone in the NBA circles thinks that the Knicks are the 5th seed. So we're going to talk about the Knicks. I don't care if you're a Knicks fan.
Here is my reason. That it's not because I'm a Knicks fan that I think the Nets are going to be the 5. I have a couple reasons. Injuries. I think they're going to start slow, so that's going to hurt their regular season record. I do think they're a better team than the Knicks. I just think they're going to be slotted as the 5.
That's fine.
And, just injuries, age, fatigue. I don't know. I don't think it's all going to work right away.
All right, that's fine. We can talk.
Let's talk about the Knicks.
Yeah, we can talk about the Nets in a few minutes. You have the Knicks as your 4 seed, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Nope, the 1. The 1.
Well, you should just be fired from this podcast. That's all, folks.
Yeah. It's going to be Knicks or Nets. Knicks and Nets are going to be the 4 and 5. You have the Nets as the 3, right?
I do, but I'll tell you why later. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's
right.
You'll probably agree with it. But all right, the 5th seed. I have them as the Knicks. You don't. The Knicks. First of all, huge gap from the 6th seed to the 5th seed. The Knicks are much better than the 6th seed. Much better.
They are. So let's look at what they did this summer. They made the Bargnani trade. I like Bargnani.
Mm-hmm.
They got Meta World Artest, who was amnestied by the Lakers.
Yes, he was.
And I like that they picked him up because they couldn't sign anybody else because they have no cap room because of Amari. They got Bino Udrih.
Good signing. I like that signing.
Is it Udrih? I really like it.
There's some phlegm.
They re-signed Prigioni. They got Cole Aldrich. I think this team got better than last year. The problem is the rest of the East got a lot better. But my issue with the Knicks, as a Knicks fan, there's a million different lineup possibilities.
I was totally going to mention that to you.
And I don't know which one's going to work the best.
I don't think Mike Woodson is good. I don't think Mike Woodson is a good enough coach to figure out which lineup works the best.
Now, the lineup that I liked the most in the playoffs last year was Felton at the 1, Prigioni at the 2, Shumpert at the 3, Melo at the 4, and Chandler at the 5.
So no J.R. Smith.
No J.R. Smith. That's when they were moving the ball the best. Prigioni is great at getting the ball moving around and not just letting it sit in Melo's hand. That's not the lineup that's not going to be the starting lineup this year. I really liked Melo at the 4 last year.
Well, yeah, everyone likes Melo at the 4. That's the spot for him.
And I think they need to keep him there, but I'm afraid of them putting him and Bargnani on the floor at the same time. That's just a mess. I don't really like that.
Here's my thing with the Knicks. Bargnani is the guy. If he clicks with this team, they'll win a shitload of games and might make the 4 seed. But I don't think that he's going to. Defensively,
I think he will.
Maybe. Defensively, you're right. Bargnani, if they play him at the 5, which they will because they have to. Let's just say they play Amari and Bargnani together.
And Melo.
That's a layup line.
Yeah.
That is a layup line for the other team.
Uh-huh.
And if you haven't read Zach Lowe's article on the Knicks, you should find it online and read it. He talks about defense very extensively. He'll tell you why better than I that the Knicks won't be great defensively, but they're just not very good defensively. They're going to shoot a shitload of threes, probably make them because they have talented three-point shooters, but I do agree that they got slightly better. They got rid of guys that they didn't really need. Steve Novak last year in the playoffs, people would just sit on him, and
he disappeared.
His weapon would just go away, which is three-point shooting. Bargnani at least can handle the ball. He can set picks. He can be good in the pick and pop. I don't like him for his contract, but I'm not paying it, so it doesn't matter. I think he's a decent player. He averaged 21 points a few years ago. Defensively, he's terrible. Can't get a rebound either. So Tyson Chandler has to be on the floor. If he doesn't play 70 games this year, this team is going into the shitter. They could get a 6 seed if Tyson Chandler doesn't play that much this year.
We saw between Chandler's season when he won the finals with the Mavericks and his first season with the Knicks went from being like the 28th best defense in the NBA to like 12th. And all they added was him. He is the key to their defense. He is so good in the middle. And, I was trying to think of good defensive lineups when you were talking there. I could see like a Felton, Shumpert, Artest at the 3, Melo at the 4, Chandler lineup. I kind of like that one too.
Yeah.
Because Shumpert is a very good perimeter defender. He's another key. He's going to need to make a big leap this year. And I don't know why the hell Woodson's talking about maybe starting J.R. Smith. I think it's just to light a fire under Shumpert. But Shumpert, he's the only young developing player they have on this team. And he needs to be on the floor 30 minutes a game.
I absolutely agree with you.
Be.
I think Metta World Peace is washed up. He's not nearly as good defensively as he was when he won the Defensive Player of the Year all those years ago. And I think he's just running on reputation now. He's a scary guy, so that's good.
I think he can still contribute, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He still can contribute. He's better than whatever else they were throwing out there last year.
Yeah.
I like Shumpert a lot. I feel bad for him because he's on a team where it seems like the coach doesn't want to play him. And he is going to be a great 2. If he can develop a jump shot, he's going to be really good. I like him a lot better than J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith doesn't know what to do defensively. Read Zach Lowe's article if you want that. This team, I just think they're not as good as the other top 4. And they're still good. They're still very good. They can compete in the playoffs, but they don't share the ball well. It's usually Carmelo Anthony's team. He's going to take even more shots this year. Defensively, they're not good. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is probably going to play a little bit. Not much. I don't like Woodson as a coach. I really don't.
Woodson, I liked him last year until he got to the playoffs and refused to play Chris Copeland in that Indiana series. Chris Copeland was the only guy making shots in that series, and he refused to put him in the games, and I didn't understand that. I'm not that upset about the Knicks losing Copeland like a lot of people are, because I still don't think he's, like the kind of guy who can really be an offensive spark off the bench. I think he's more of a corner 3 guy. I don't know with this Knicks team. I think they're a good regular season team. That's the other thing. That's the other reason I have them as the 4. I think on Melo alone, they're going to win a lot of games. They were winning games against the Heat in the regular season last year. They're going to get. I don't think they beat the Bulls last year, so they're not going to beat them again this year. But I don't know. There's so many questions. There's just so many guys that don't seem to slot into the lineup. They've got Kenyon Martin for defense. I like him. Obviously, JR can be an explosive scorer, but he's got his off-court problems. I don't know. Like, last year as a Knicks fan, I was psyched heading into the season. And now I'm just, I don't know. There's so many questions.
And that's not the Knicks' fault, because the other top 4 teams have gotten so much better, like substantially better. And the Knicks, they were handcuffed because of their contracts. The Amari contract
because
alone.
Because of Amari's contract.
And guess what? He's still on contract for another year after this one.
Yep.
Have you heard Woodson talking about he's only going to play him 10 to 15 minutes? You need Amari to play well. And
worst contract in NBA history.
Definitely, especially the way he's turned out. Just because the fact it's uninsured is a problem. The biggest problem with this team is the lineups. Woodson's not going to be able to find the right one. You can't play the starters off 48 minutes. One of these lineups that he's going to throw out there is going to be awful defensively, and they're going to give up so many points, and he's not going to know what to do. But this team can compete. I still think they're a 5th seed. I don't think they're any better. But this is what happened last year, because you mentioned all the threes and they made, and they beat the Heat and all that. Last year, they started out, April was really hot for them. Then they were okay the rest of the year, and then November, another hot start. April, more hot starts. They are going to play much more consistent this year.
Yeah, I think so. As I said, they're better than last year. I really like Udrih, who we didn't talk about much. I really like him as a backup guard, and I love Prigioni. I love what he did last year. He's like a gnat on defense. He really gets in guys' heads, and he's not in guys' heads. He gets in guys' faces. And he's really good at distributing the ball. Sometimes he makes too many passes. He really likes to pass up the open shot. but I like him. I don't know. We can be done with the Knicks. There's just a lot of question marks. There really are.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to mention Pablo Prigioni. He is their best playmaker on the team, and I think Woodson needs to play him more.
And I think that could be an issue. I think he could get buried this year.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I really do. I really liked those lineups with Felton and Prigioni and Shumpert at the 3. Those 3 guard and Melo at the 4 lineups really moved the ball well and really seemed to be their best scoring lineups last year.
I agree. I actually have the Pacers in the 4 seed, and you have the Knicks in the 4 seed. So let's talk about the Nets, because I know you have them in the 5 seed, and if we just average those out, we'll get the Nets. So we're going to talk about the Nets. Yeah. The Nets are my favorite team, and even though I'm really big on the Nets, it's not because I'm a diehard homer. It's that this team had the best offseason out of anyone, obviously. Do you agree?
Yeah, probably. I'd put Houston up there, too, just for getting Dwight. I think they really transformed their team. But, well, no, obviously, you can look at the Nets compared to last year. Their bench is great. They have one of the best benches in the league. I don't know why you think they're better than the Pacers.
I think
that's what I want to hear about.
I will tell you. I'll just tell you right now instead of giving my analysis on the Nets.
All right.
I think the Pacers are a better team in the playoffs. I think they're going to get further. I think because the Nets want to prove something to people, how good they are and how they can play, they're going to just roll out the wins during the regular season. Seeding-wise, I like the Nets above the Pacers. Team-wise, I like the Pacers above the Nets. This is strictly seeding. I'm not. These aren't my rankings for best teams. These are my seedings for playoffs.
Well, and that's what I did with the Knicks and the Nets. I think the Nets are the 4th best team in the East, and you'll see in a second, I have the Bulls as the 1 seed in the East because I think they're not going to lose a game in the regular season. Obviously, I think the Heat are the best team in the East, though.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. All right. So let's talk about the Nets. They got, in the offseason, I'm just going to read the names because there's way too many. They got Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Andre Kirilenko, Jason Terry, Sean Livingston, Mason Plumlee, Allen Anderson, and they got a new coach in Jason Kidd. Crazy offseason. I think everyone on this team fits in perfectly. That's why I love the team so much, because they fit together like fucking, I don't even know. It's so exciting.
I worry, as I said, I worry about injuries. I worry about Garnett and Pierce. I know they're going to be on the old man diet of minutes, like 15 to 20 for Garnett at least. I could see this all crashing down very easily. I like that Jason Kidd has Lawrence Frank on his staff because I honestly think Jason Kidd is the... I don't know how much coaching Jason Kidd's going to do for most of the season. I honestly think this is Lawrence Frank's team. I'm not even kidding.
I know.
I think Jason Kidd's the figurehead, and Lawrence Frank is going to be pulling the strings.
That's a possibility. I understand all your injury concerns, but this is why I think they're not going to be that bad. They are too deep at every position. You think Kevin Garnett's probably going to get injured, right?
Yeah, he'll get banged up. He'll miss some games.
You know who's his backup? Andre Blatch and Reggie Evans. Reggie Evans was pulling playoff crunch time minutes for the Clippers a few years ago, and Andre Blatch looked great last year. Paul Pierce gets injured. Andre Kirilenko. Joe Johnson gets injured.
Love Kirilenko.
You have Allen Anderson and Jason Terry. Darren Williams gets injured. You have Sean Livingston and Tyshawn Taylor. They are so deep on their team that injuries, if you can manage them with minutes being low, this team is still going to be very good. Their bench players could be a starting lineup and still destroy some teams. That's why I think their injuries is not going to be a big problem.
That's really the big challenge for Kidd and his staff, right? Managing the minutes and figuring out who's going to play when and getting through the regular season with your team still intact so you can make noise in the playoffs?
Well, absolutely. And injuries are going to come up. They happen to every team. I just think this team, that is my big worry. The injuries are my big worry because if Kevin Garnett breaks an ankle and he's out for the season, this whole season could go to shit. And to go to shit, I mean, this team has championship potential. And if they don't win a championship,
they do.
Then it's championship or bust. Absolutely.
More than any team we've seen in a long time. What is their cap? Like 117 they're paying this year or something?
They are paying, the payroll is 117. With the luxury tax, they are paying almost $200 million.
That's unbelievable. Russian billionaires. What can you say?
Absolutely absurd.
Kevin Garnett, though, is the best piece they acquired. He, kind of like Tyson Chandler, he changes team defense so much. And he is just still such a valuable player when he's on the floor.
He really is.
He can score so well. He's got that beautiful mid-range shot. and he's going to make up for the deficiencies that Brook Lopez provides on the defensive end.
That's the thing.
When they're on the floor together.
Last year, defensively, this team didn't have a fire under them. They didn't care. They were relying on Gerald Wallace and Andre Blatch.
They lost to hobbled Joakim Noah and Nate Robinson.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. With Garnett, Garnett is so fierce. He's going to make Brook Lopez better just by screaming at him. And Brook Lopez is going to be like timid and shit, but he's going to get better.
Lopez is a nerd. He's gonna hate KG like an older brother for the first couple weeks. Like, oh, Garnett's such a jerk.
Let me just describe how this team fits together. Deron Williams, he's mad that people have forgotten how good of a point guard he is. And last year he was injured and also fat. So this year, I think he's going to have one of his best years. I have him as a dark horse MVP.
He needs to show it. Yeah, he needs to have a big year.
Oh, he will.
Because he really needs to step up and be the leader of this team.
He really does. You're absolutely right. I think he can run pick and pop with Garnett, because Garnett hates to be low post. He hates it. I'm not sure if you've seen his shot chart. Garnett is amazing from mid-range. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Best in the league, actually. He can run pick and roll with Lopez. Paul Pierce and Joe Johnson can just sit in the corners and shoot. Paul Pierce doesn't have to be athletic anymore. He can just shoot the ball. Why would he get injured if he's just shooting the ball? I mean, him just shooting the ball is going against every instinct he's ever had as a player, because he's been the go-to guy ever since he came in the league. And Joe Johnson is just lights out. I love Joe Johnson. Way overpaid, but money doesn't even matter on this team. Their bench, we mentioned, deep as hell. They have a LeBron stopper in Andre Kirilenko. You need a LeBron stopper in order to win.
Such a good signing.
There's a lot of talent on this team. Way too much talent.
We're gonna talk about. Well, I'll bring it up when we talk about them over in the West. If the T-Wolves still had him, I like them more as a team. He's such a valuable player, and I have him as one of my 6th Man of the Year candidates. I don't think I have him winning the award, but he's so valuable, and they got him to sign for like $10
for a ham sandwich.
Yeah, which, by the way, still trying to give Trent Richardson away in our fantasy football league. Still hasn't happened. We'll talk about that at another time, but it's frustrating.
Jason Kidd is the coach now. You did mention that. We all mentioned that because it's been everywhere. Like, Jason Kidd played about 12 minutes ago in the playoffs with the Knicks.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Score a basket.
I still can't believe he's in a suit. It doesn't make any sense.
It's so weird.
Jason Kidd is a great big question mark. With Lawrence Frank, you said you think he's going to run the team, but Jason Kidd is going to be able to harness the talent on this team because any lineup that he throws out there is going to be able to play well together just because it's so deep. I don't think he's going to even need to be a great coach. The problem is in crunch time when they're down 2 and he has to draw up a play for them to win the game.
Well, that's where Lawrence Frank draws up the play.
Well, there you go.
I really don't know how many game time decisions Jason Kidd's going to be making this year. I don't know.
I mean, he's one of the best point guards ever.
He is. That's fair. But it's a hell of a lot different running a team, managing all these personalities, managing all these minutes. I don't think he's going to have any problems commanding respect from any of these guys. Obviously, he was one of the most well-respected players in the league for his entire career. I know he's around the same age as Garnett and Pierce, right?
Yep.
So, but they're not going to have any problems respecting him because they obviously competed with him and they know about him. This is a very good team.
We didn't even talk about Brook Lopez.
Best offensive center in the NBA.
Absolutely. That's all I got to say about him. Real quick, any one of these top 4 teams we're going to mention, Brooklyn, Pacers, Chicago, and the Heat, can make it to the finals. It's up in the air. It really is.
What do you think of Jason Terry, real quick?
Jason Terry was awful last year with the Celtics, but I think he's going to go back to being Maverick Jason Terry.
I think he's done.
No, you're
fuck Jason Terry. I loved Jason Terry, and then he went to Boston, and then he went to fucking Brooklyn. How am I?
It's true. It's true. Bad situation for Jason Terry last year. I think he's going to be very, very good this year.
Okay.
We talked a lot about the Nets because, I mean, once you get in the top 4, you have to talk a lot about these teams because now you have to like nitpick to find who to pick.
We might have a 6-hour NBA preview this way, Steve.
Who cares, man? Who cares? Let's keep it going. I'm assuming you have the Pacers as your 3rd seed.
I do, and they're the 3rd best team in the Eastern Conference, if not the 2nd best. Actually, scratch that. I don't buy this shit that they're better than the Bulls. I really don't. So everybody all fucking summer has been telling me, how do you not think the Pacers are the best team in the East now? They got better, and they took the Heat to 7 games in the playoffs last year. I do not give a shit how many games they took the Heat to. They still lost the series. And they didn't play well in Game 7, the one game that mattered in that series. I do not give a shit that they took them to 7 games. The Heat are a better team. They have Danny Granger back. Yes, the Heat are a better team. I don't care about that fucking series last year. I don't care how many games it went. It's irrelevant. Nobody's gonna remember how many games it went.
Uriah, this team
Bugs me.
Could easily win the finals this year.
Yes. Everything I just set aside, this is a very talented team, but they're not good because they took the Heat to 7 games last year.
I mean,
I'm just putting that shit to rest.
It's a valid point. You keep mentioning that that the Brooklyn Nets lost to the hobbled whatevers Chicago Bulls last year. So why is it not relevant that this team took the Miami Heat, who are the champions, best team in the league?
Beat him.
So what?
I don't care how many games they took him to.
They were 48 minutes away from winning the East.
Dwayne Wade didn't look like he was playing in a game until Game 7.
Okay, all right.
I don't think the Heat players get fired up for Game 5. Honestly, though,
you're probably right. But
I don't know.
The Pacers are going to be scary good, right? I mean, come on.
They're good. They're
scary good.
My big question, I don't know how Danny Granger and Paul George fit together.
They fit great together.
I don't know.
Danny Granger is not what he used to be. I love Danny Granger. I'm really high on Danny Granger. He does everything well that Paul George doesn't. He can shoot. He can go to the rim. He can't defend nearly as well as Paul George. But Danny Granger fills in a slot that they needed. A lot of people don't think Danny Granger is going to stay on this team. They think he's going to be traded. I think they should keep him on the team because I really like Danny Granger. If you put him on Dwayne Wade in the Eastern Conference Finals, I mean, Wade can get around Danny Granger, but he can't do anything else against him. I don't know. This team is really good. This team could win the finals easily as well.
Yeah. So, starting 5, Hill, Granger, George, West, and Hibbert. Great starting 5. Love Roy Hibbert. Best. I don't know what can I call him the best defensive center in the league over Dwight? I think I can.
Sure.
Maybe he's an old school center, which I love. I love Roy Hibbert. I'm so big on Roy Hibbert.
I love him too.
I think he's great. I really like that they brought David West back. I think the two of them together is a really nice combination. Paul George, we've had our differences with because of his lack of efficiency.
Overhyped.
Very overhyped. People are ready to call him one of the best players in the NBA already. I want to see him play this year.
Me too. This year will determine it for me.
Let's see him make that leap because George was good last year, and he was very good in the playoffs. Let's see how he comes back from being very good in the playoffs last year because that's why everybody's high on him because of how good he was in the playoffs. And he was excellent in the playoffs. Excellent on both sides of the ball. He looked stellar. But I want to see him do it for a full season before I'm ready to crown him the next great player.
If you look at
the NBA.
Paul George's shot selection, his shot chart, you'll see that he is not very good from anywhere on the court. He's very inefficient. He can't score very well.
No.
And if you have LeBron James on him, like they did in the playoffs, he's not going to score nearly as well as he can against other guys. He's a 6'8" shooting guard.
Yeah, absolutely. Who are they playing him at? Doesn't matter, I guess, if they're playing him at the 2 or the 3.
Well, here's the thing. Danny Granger is a little injured right now. He has a calf injury. So they're probably going to start Lance Stevenson and Paul George to start. But I think it doesn't really matter who they play at the 2 and 3 because Paul George is defending their best player, whoever they're playing against. Because Paul George is top 3 defensive players on ball in the league. I will give him that.
Yeah, he's a great defender, and I do really like him on that side of the ball. He's young, he's explosive, he's got a lot of talent. Let's see it all come together in a season. Let's see a 23 points per game, 8 rebounds, 4 assists season. Let's see that.
I think he can get 28 and 6. LeBron-type numbers, but not nearly as much as points, because I think he's a really good passer. Has a lot of turnovers. With Danny Granger back, he'll have another weapon scoring-wise. This team didn't have a lot of scoring weapons last year.
I don't think he's scoring 28 points per game.
No, I said 20.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 28.
No, fuck that. You out of your mind? That's right. LeBron numbers.
That's scoring title numbers. Lance Stevenson. Love him.
Born ready.
Yeah, born ready is right. He showed it last year. It took 3 years in the NBA, but...
You know I have a special place in my heart for Lance Stevenson because he's from Brooklyn, played at Lincoln High School, best high school player that's ever come out of Brooklyn, and he looks really good. He showed that he can play with these dudes. He's not going to take your shit. Also, Frank Vogel. We got to mention Frank Vogel. Top 5 coach in the league. They were first in the league in defense last year. I think they're going to be even better with Paul George really making the leap. I think he does make a leap. Roy Hibbert, I'm not sure if you saw the picture with him with Tim Duncan. He looks about 5 times the size of Tim Duncan.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I don't know what the hell. Is he 7'8"? He might be.
Maybe. Who knows?
No, I kid. So, here is why I don't buy that this Pacers team can win a finals. And I've said this to you many times. When they're down 10 in the fourth quarter, I don't think they have that guy who can take over the game and get them back into it and win that game for them. I have the list pulled up of NBA champions all time. Last 2 years, the Heat. LeBron James and Dwayne Wade can both do that. You look at the Mavericks in 2011, Dirk. The Lakers, Kobe. The Celtics,
Pierce.
Yeah. Pierce was great that year. That's right. That was 2008. The Spurs in 2007, Parker and Duncan. The Heat in 2006, that was Wade's team. Spurs again in 2005. Last team that didn't really have a guy like that was the 2004 Pistons.
10 years ago.
And that's really an anomaly, because you look before that, it was Lakers, Spurs, Lakers. That was Kobe and Jordan. So, where is that guy? Is Paul George ready to be that guy who can just take over a game? I don't think he is, and that's why I don't think they're going to win the finals.
I don't think they're going to win the finals either. I think they could. Talent is there. Potential is there. Coaching is there. Here's my thing with why I have them as a 4 seed. I'm not seeing the Pacers having a winning streak this year.
Nope.
I just don't see it.
That's true.
That's all it is. How do you feel about George Hill at the 1?
I like George Hill. I think he distributes the ball well. We didn't even talk about the improvements they made to their bench.
Yeah. One of the worst benches in the league last year.
Yeah. That's why they lost in the playoffs. Absolutely. And also Miami's a better team, and they would have won in 7 games even if they had this roster.
Okay,
but
relax.
CJ Watson, who I really like.
He was on the Nets last year. I can tell you all about
You know him
CJ
personally
Watson.
because he's on the Nets, yep. Scola, I really like. And Chris Copeland, he'll be solid as a 11th man. Yeah. But I really like Scola and CJ Watson. I think those were great signings.
Scola is a little, he's not nearly as good. He was amnestied, so clearly they didn't want to pay him as much as he deserved, I guess. He was on the Suns when he was amnestied, and obviously they didn't want him. His shooting percentages keep going down, but last year they had Jan Mahimi playing backup to David West. Luis Scola is much better than Jan Mahimi. This team is going to be so good.
He can score the ball, too, Scola.
He can.
It's definitely top 3 in the East, and I think you'll agree with that, even though you have the Nets seeded at the 3.
Oh, yeah. They're the 3rd best team in the East, but just seeding-wise, I think it's going to be a little different. Okay. We even talk about David West. Great guy. That's it. He's great.
Good man. Came to my wedding.
Brought me a nice napkin set.
Oh, that's beautiful. Let's talk about the Bulls, because I think we both have... Do you have the Bulls seed as the 1?
I do.
Let's talk about them, though, because I know we both... Obviously, Miami's the best team in the East.
Yeah. Strictly for seeding-wise, we just chose the Bulls as number 1. Nothing to do with rankings, people. Relax. Everybody, don't get your pitchforks out.
Don't get your panties in a wad. Jesus Christ. This Bulls team is great.
This team's going to be amazing, strictly because who's back?
Derrick Rose.
Derrick fucking Rose is back.
The MVP. The man who beat LeBron for MVP.
I think the writers beat LeBron for MVP that year.
He won it. Technicality.
Karl Malone technically won an MVP too when Jordan was still playing, so let's relax on that. But Derrick Rose is coming back, and he's going to be an MVP candidate. I can't wait to see him again. I missed him so much.
He has torn it up this preseason. He had an amazing preseason.
He's going to be so good.
I stole him on my fantasy team. I got him 11th.
Yeah, that's a miracle. I don't know how
I took LaMarcus Aldridge 10th and Rose 11th. I had the back-to-back picks.
Yeah, he went 2nd round.
Yeah, technically,
That's stupid.
I mean, I had my eye on him, obviously, but...
Good job to you doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, this team was a 5th seed and beat the Nets in the first round with nobody. You know why? Because
hobbled Joakim Noah and Nate Robinson.
Because Tom Thibodeau is one of the best coaches in the league.
Absolutely.
I don't know if this team's going to be better defensively than the Pacers, but they're going to be fucking close.
This team is so good on defense. So good.
Can I just mention something? I'm just going to mention a lineup, and you tell me if you can score on them. Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler, Luol Deng, Taj Gibson, and Joakim Noah.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
That's a nightmare for opposing coaches.
The key to this team possibly winning the finals is Joakim Noah staying healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's been hobbled. He was hobbled a lot last year. And if he's healthy, I don't see any reason they can't win the finals. This team is so good. Rose, we don't even need to say anything about because he's that explosive. He's that good. Probably, if he comes back the way he was, top 3-point guard, you got to put him up. You got to put Parker and Paul up there. I don't know what order. Paul's probably the best in the NBA still just because of his ability to distribute the ball.
This team is a 1 seed because they rack up regular season's wins like nobody's business. In the last 2 years that Derrick Rose was healthy, they were number 1 seeds both times. They were on pace for 62 wins. One of them was a lockout year, so they didn't play 62 games. Played 66 games, so, that'd be insane. But this team is built for the regular season. Jimmy Butler has emerged as an elite defensive player. I think he's the best defender for LeBron. To play on LeBron.
In the NBA.
In the NBA, yes.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, he's great, though.
They didn't really add anybody in the offseason. They added Mike Dunleavy, who can just shoot, and Tony Snell, who's supposed to be able to shoot, too. But this team was already good without adding anybody, so...
Yeah, I guess my only concerns... Boozer's a concern to me.
I like Boozer still.
I was kind of surprised they didn't use the amnesty on him.
You know why they didn't? Because Boozer is talented enough, and he fits well enough in this team, that amnestying him, who was you going to replace him with? Taj Gibson?
Yeah, that's true. And
this is the team that can win the finals.
I love Taj Gibson as a backup. The only thing that I guess kind of worries me, I've been saying all summer that they're going to try to trade Lou Aldang this year, but they got to try to get somebody else back who can start, because I don't love the backup guards. Heinrich, Marcus Teague, Mike James, Dunleavy, Tony Snell. Well, those last two are forwards. Dunleavy can play shooting guard, but I don't love the backup guards. But this starting 5 is just so solid and so good defensively no matter who's on the floor because of Thibodeau. There's no easy wins against this team.
Not at all. They're going to be so hard to score against. I like Kirk Heinrich because he destroyed the Nets when he played them. And he's a talented guy. Very good in the pick and roll. He can shoot, too. I mean, and plus, Tom Thibodeau made Nate Robinson a good defender. And Nate Robinson is not a great defender.
Nate Robinson is a piece of garbage.
Just because this team is going to be number 1, I can see them in the Eastern Conference Finals going to 7 games with the Heat, and I wouldn't be surprised if they beat them. I really wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. This is the team that I really I feel the best about having a chance to beat the Heat, and I think they're going to have the best regular season record in the NBA.
Oh, I completely agree with you. 100%. Glad we agree on that, because I think most people in the NBA are thinking about that. Defensively, amazing. Offensively, Derrick Rose just makes your team...
He makes plays. Can't stop him.
No, you can't. And even coming off an ACL surgery, people are harping on him because he didn't play a single minute last year. I'm glad he didn't. Because
I am too. Great decision.
If you can watch the Bulls, you better do it, because Derrick Rose is a once-in-a-lifetime player, and he's great.
Probably the hardest player in the league to stop other than LeBron, right? Or Durant, I'm sorry. Sorry, Kevin Durant. That's disrespectful. That's very disrespectful. But Rose is just that kind of explosion. So hard to... And people forget about it. They sat out last year. There's all the Derrick Rose... Oh, Derrick Rose is a pussy because he didn't come back.
Well, NSYNC came back.
Go watch Derrick Rose footage from 2 years ago and watch Derrick Rose's preseason footage.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's very incredible. We both have the next team as a 2 seed, but they're the best team in the league.
They're the best team in the NBA. Yeah.
No doubt. You know why? Because they just won 2 championships in a row, and they've been in 3 in a row.
And there's no reason... There's nothing stopping them from winning a third.
What, did they get worse? No, of course they didn't get worse. The Miami Heat are God's gift to basketball.
What needs to be said about them at this point? LeBron James is the best player in basketball. He's the best player of our generation. He's the best player since Jordan. Here's what I'll say about LeBron. Let's all shut the fuck up about the LeBron and Jordan comparisons. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, they don't matter. They don't matter.
It doesn't matter. 2 different players, 2 different positions, 2 different NBAs.
Just going to say that.
2 different NBAs. Michael Jordan played in the late 80s and the 90s, where shit was slow. I don't think they had the 3-point line yet. But it's 2 different NBAs. It's unbelievable that people try to compare these guys. Oh, they played one-on-one.
Who cares?
Shit. No, I don't care at all.
It's my least favorite argument. Don't care.
When has playing one-on-one ever decided anything?
Never.
Like, what if the finals goes into 4 overtimes, does LeBron have to play one-on-one with Tony Parker fucking last year? Is that how they decide? Is it like soccer? Do they do a shootout? Like, it's Chalmers against Parker, and then Wade against fucking Kawhi Leonard? Like, it's so stupid.
It is really stupid.
That's what I'll say about LeBron. But LeBron James, enjoy him. Please enjoy him, because unreal. Just unreal watching the man play basketball.
Absolutely. You said it best. LeBron James is my favorite basketball player. I think just because fans have a problem with being fanatics, which fan is short for. They like to it's a game, people. And he plays it better than anyone in the world, and you should just be thankful you get to watch it happen. Game 6 and Game 7, absolutely astronomically crazy good performances. LeBron James is the best in the world. Get over it. He's better than anyone you've seen because you're probably 20 and didn't get to watch Michael Jordan play. Anyway, The reason we have this team as a 2 seed, and I'm sure the same reason you have it as well, they're not going to go on another 27-game winning streak. You know why? Because they don't care.
They don't give a shit. This team does not want to play until April.
This team is riding the break until they get in the playoffs, and then they're riding the break until Game 7.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because Indiana, I don't think they ever thought they were going to lose that series.
No,
I don't think there was ever any doubt in LeBron's mind. The only time they thought they were going to lose was against the Spurs.
Yeah.
And the Spurs are a much better team than the Pacers in every sense.
Okay.
I think they are.
All right, okay.
Coaching alone.
Yeah, you're right.
I like
you're
Vogel,
right.
But
in the offseason, they signed Michael Beasley and Greg Oden, both low-risk, high-reward players.
Yeah. I hope Greg Oden is just great this year.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's rooting against Greg Oden because Greg Oden, so much talent coming out of college, only has gotten to play 82 games in his whole career. A full season in his whole career.
He had so much promise, too.
Oh, my God,
Like, we could be talking about... Like, we could be looking at the Rushmore of centers in the NBA right now, and it would be Oden, Dwight, and I guess Bynum. I don't know. Let's go back 2 years, and the Rushmore of centers is Oden, Dwight, and Bynum, because with everything that's happened, it might be Brooke Lopez, Tiago Splitter, and fucking Costa Kufos.
Oh, God. Greg Oden could give this team everything they've been missing, which is rebounding. That's all he needs to do, is just rebound. He doesn't need to score, he doesn't need to do anything but rebound. Maybe he can defend Roy Hibbert. If he can, then that's amazing. If he can't, then they can still win. Michael Beasley, a lot of promise coming out of college, hasn't really found his footing in the NBA. Kind of terrible, I'll actually say. He understands what his role is now. Just play basketball. Do not act like a fool.
He's still got the off-court problems.
That's the problem.
I think.
That is a big
I'm worried
problem.
about that. I like Beasley, kinda. I don't know. I think this is the team. If any team can turn his career around, this is absolutely the team to do it.
Absolutely.
This is where he got drafted to.
Yep.
Funny enough. But I like the signing, though. As you said, it's low risk, could be very high reward. There's really nothing else we have to say about the Heat. They're returning the same guys they had last year.
Championship team.
This bench. They lost Mike Miller. I guess that is the big piece they lost. He was clutch in both finals that they won.
Rashard Lewis is going to have to play a lot more minutes, and all he has to do is shoot threes. And James Jones is buried on that bench and can shoot a lot of threes and make them. So just play those guys a little more, and you can win just as many games.
Yeah, and that's really what they do. They surround LeBron with these 3-point shooters and just let him run the offense. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Chalmers has turned into a very solid point guard, perfect for this team. Knows exactly how to work with Wade, James, and Bosh. You know, this is a team who started out so slowly a couple of years ago, and now these guys might have the most experience together than any other team in the East. You think about it.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. We both agree that Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the league, right?
Absolutely. Incredible. Incredible what he's done with this team.
People who think he's overrated because...
Yeah, because he has LeBron. Well, he brought LeBron, Wade, and Bosh together.
And got them to play together.
And made it work perfectly.
This is my thing on this team. If they make it to the finals, they'll win. I think it's going to be really tough for them to get there, though.
This is definitely the toughest Eastern Conference they've faced, top to bottom, since they assembled with LeBron.
Absolutely.
So, and guess what? He's staying in Miami. We'll see you next year for the 4th championship. in a row.
I don't know about that. It's going to be a great
He's
offseason. Stay tuned, folks, because Melo might be leaving too.
Nope. No, nobody's leaving this offseason. Kevin Love's going to LA, and that's it.
Relax.
I'm pretty confident about that.
All right. Well, folks, that's going to do it for the Eastern Conference. We love the Eastern Conference. Both of our favorite teams are in there. And this is going to... We believe... I'm not sure if you believe this, but I believe that the champion of the NBA is going to come out of the Eastern Conference.
I think that's safe to say. I think Miami and Chicago... Man, and even Indiana, if they get through everyone. I have trouble picking a team who's going to win the West. The West is so good top to bottom, but there's not that team that I think can knock off the Heat, honestly, unless it's the Spurs. So we'll talk about that in our next podcast coming up here.
Yes,
Stay
sir.
tuned for part 2. It's going to be there in your feed because we're releasing them all at once.
Yeah, because we're awesome like that.
We are.
All right, you can find us on Twitter at Triple Threat Pod. We also have a Facebook page now, facebook.com/Triple Threat Pod. Like us. You can find us on iTunes as well. Rate, review, do it all, because we got to get this podcast rolling. We got to get people to listen to it, because we love doing it. I hope you love it listening to it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Stay tuned for part 2. This is the Triple Threat Podcast.
Come on and slam. You wanna jam. Hey, yo, what you gonna do? Hey, yo, what you gonna do? Hey, yo, what you gonna do?